There is something almost magical about the way a whisper floats through the air. It begins with breath, a soft ripple at the edge of the lips, born from the lungs and shaped by the tongue and teeth. And yet that quiet sound, so small, so gentle, can travel across a room, dance into someone's ear and stir the heart like a secret breeze. It does not march or shout. It glides. It glimmers. And deep within that whisper is a world of invisible waves, sound waves, moving gently, one air molecule to the next, passing vibrations like hands in a chain. The science of sound is not loud. It is tender and precise. It begins with movement. Something must shift, tremble, or tap. A bell, a voice, a raindrop on a leaf. That movement creates pressure in the air. The air, though unseen, is full, a tapestry of molecules in motion, waiting to carry each vibration forward. When one molecule bumps another, the pattern begins. Waves of compression and rarefaction stretch outward in all directions. Some reach our ears. Some keep traveling. Some vanish into stillness. But every sound, no matter how brief, begins as a dance of air. Imagine you are very small, so small that you can see each air particle, round and drifting. You notice how, when a sound begins, the particles do not fly forward like a wave in the ocean. Instead, they pulse in place, nudging the next in line. It is a push, a pull, a squeeze, and a release, like the rise and fall of breath. This is how sound moves, not by rushing through, but by touching, pressing, passing energy along. It is a quiet relay, an invisible ripple, like watching grass bend under the wind. Our ears are built to catch these ripples. The outer ear curves like a shell, designed to funnel sound inward. The waves travel down a small tunnel, meeting the eardrum, a thin, sensitive sheet stretched tight. The eardrum trembles when touched by sound, echoing the pattern of the waves. Behind it, tiny bones, the smallest in the human body, begin to move. The malleus, incus, and stapes carry the tremors deeper. They pass the motion into the inner ear, where fluid and hair-like cells wait, ready to transform vibration into something the brain understands. Sound becomes signal. Signal becomes meaning. Meaning becomes music, memory, emotion. Even silence has its own kind of sound. In quiet rooms, if you listen closely, you may hear a faint hum, the sound of blood flowing through your ears, the soft murmur of electricity in the walls, the distant breath of wind outside. Silence is never truly empty. It is a pause between waves, a soft place where sound sleeps. The body listens even then. The brain waits. The air listens too, waiting to move again. Some creatures hear more than we ever could. Bats, for instance, use echolocation, sending out high-pitched cries that bounce off the world, returning as echoes that paint a picture in sound. Dolphins click and whistle through water, their voices traveling faster and farther than through air. Elephants speak in low rumbles that travel through the ground, heard and felt miles away by the sensitive feet of their kin. To each, sound is a language, a map, a thread of connection. And yet the wave remains the same, a motion passed from matter to matter, shaped by pitch, volume, texture. Sound waves can be drawn if you try. They appear as sine curves on paper, smooth hills and valleys that show the ups and downs of pressure. The height of the wave tells us its loudness, the closeness of the peaks tells us its pitch. High notes come from tight waves, low notes from wide ones, but the soul of sound is more than a graph. It is how it makes you feel, a mother's lullaby, the whisper of rain on a rooftop, a friend calling your name across a field. These are not just patterns, they are experiences. The world is full of constant sound even if you are still. Insects hum in the grass. Leaves rustle in soft choruses. Distant engines growl. Somewhere someone laughs. Somewhere else someone sighs. All of it comes as vibration. All of it rides the air. And yet our minds learn to focus, to pull one voice from the sea of noise, to let a melody rise above the chatter, to fall asleep to a breeze instead of being stirred by it. The ear is not just a receiver. It is a filter. A gentle gatekeeper of sound. Now imagine a place with no echoes, no walls, no trees, a room designed to absorb all sound, to let nothing bounce back, an anechoic chamber. When people enter such a space, they say the silence is overwhelming. You can hear your heartbeat, your breath, the tiny clicks of your joints. In that deep quiet, you begin to realize how much of your life is shaped by sound, and how strange it feels when that sound is taken away. But even in silence, vibration continues. Your body is full of inner rhythms, the pulsing of blood, the stretching of tendons, the movement of your voice before you speak. Sound is not just something we hear. It is something we make, something we carry, something we are. The bones in your skull vibrate with music. The fluids in your ears sway with the tide of motion. Your own voice sounds different to you than it does to others, because you hear it both from outside and from within. There is a tenderness in knowing this, that we are not just listeners of the world but participants in its quiet symphony. Every step on gravel, every creak of floorboards, every page turned in a book. These are the poems of motion, the breathings of sound, the whispers that connect us one ear to another, one heartbeat to the next. Let's drift back now. Let the idea settle like dust in a still room. Every sound you hear is a story of motion, of pressure, of invisible touch. The whisper that travels through air is more than a breath. It is science. It is beauty. And it is always moving, soft, unseen, and full of wonder. Let's drift deeper now, into the secret structures that let sound live in this world. Underneath every whisper, every laugh, every thunderclap is a web of laws, the gentle physics of vibration, the soft architecture of air. Sound may seem like a simple thing, a background companion to our lives, but when you look closely, it becomes astonishing. A single moment of sound touches so many parts of nature. It echoes in biology, dances through mathematics, and reflects in the tiniest pockets of space. It is more than noise. It is one of nature's finest tools. To understand this tool, imagine a still pond. You toss a pebble in and ripples bloom outward, smooth and circular, fatting gently as they go. Sound behaves in much the same way, though it travels through air instead of water. Every sound you make creates ripples not just around you, but through you. Your body, your walls, even the ground beneath your feet becomes part of this quiet ripple effect. Some waves travel far and wide. Others vanish in a blink. What decides their journey is frequency, energy, and resistance, the fabric of physics wrapped in calm rhythm. The frequency of sound, measured in hertz, tells us how many wave cycles pass a point each second. A low frequency, like a drum, moves slowly and deeply, shaking the chest with its long waves. A high frequency, like a bird's chirp, moves quickly and sharply, skipping like a stone across a lake. The human ear can hear a wide range of frequencies, from around 20 to 20,000 hertz, but there are sounds both above and below that realm. Infrasound, the low rumble of elephants and earthquakes, is felt more than heard. Ultrasound, too high for our ears, is used by bats, whales, and even medical machines that peek inside the body with echoes. Inside your ear, there is a winding spiral called the cochlea, shaped like a tiny snail. Within its fluid-filled chambers are hair cells, delicate and trembling, each tuned to a different pitch. As sound waves travel through, they stir the fluid which bends the hairs. Each tiny movement sends signals to the brain. High sounds stir hairs near the entrance. Low sounds reach the inner spiral. The cochlea is not just a sensor. It is a natural piano, with every note assigned to a place, waiting to be played by the music of the world. But hearing is only part of the journey. Sound also shapes memory, emotion, and even healing. Studies have shown that gentle music can reduce stress, ease pain, and regulate the heartbeat. A mother's voice can soothe a crying baby in ways no other sound can. The rustle of leaves, the crash of waves, the patter of rain, all these are known to calm the brain, inviting sleep, peace, or reflection. Our nervous system is tuned to sound. Not just the words, but the tone, the rhythm, the pause between syllables. Even silence, placed gently, can be powerful. Many scientists now believe that sound may have been one of the earliest languages, not of words, but of rhythm. Heartbeats, footsteps, the call of one creature to another across an open plain. Before humans spoke, they may have hummed or chanted or beat stones together in steady patterns. These ancient sounds carried emotion, warning, invitation, belonging. In many cultures, sound still holds sacred space in bells, chants, flutes, and drums. And in modern times, Sound has become our bridge to machines, to space, even to the past. Consider how we explore the universe. Sound cannot travel in the vacuum of space, but we still use waves to listen to it. Radio telescopes capture signals that behave like sound, traveling across light years to hum in our detectors. We translate these into tones, revealing the music of distant stars, the rhythm of pulsars, the heartbeat of black holes. NASA once recorded the plasma vibrations of Earth, magnetosphere, a deep, pulsing hum that echoes like a cosmic breath. Though we cannot hear it with our ears, we can feel it with our instruments and interpret it as sound. Sound has another role too. It helps us map the invisible. Sonar, for example, sends pulses through water, then listens for echoes. Submarines use it to navigate, dolphins to hunt, and scientists to explore the deep sea. In medicine, ultrasound reveals the hidden shapes of our bodies. In archaeology, sound waves probe the earth for buried ruins. Even architects study sound to design rooms where music glows and echoes do not overwhelm. The softness of a carpet, the curve of a wall, the texture of a ceiling, all affect how sound breathes in a space. And in our daily lives, sound creates atmosphere. The ticking of a clock, the clink of dishes, the whoosh of traffic, the hush of curtains swaying, these form the gentle texture of existence. Cities hum, forests whisper, oceans murmur. Our world is filled with sonic fingerprints, unique to every place and time. Even the same word spoken in two different rooms can sound different, shaped by the walls, the furniture, the warmth of the air. This is called acoustics, the way a space becomes a collaborator in every sound it hosts. Some artists play with this idea, creating music designed for cathedrals, caves, or even mountaintops. They study how long a note lingers, how it bounces and folds, how it wraps around stone and disappears into air. There are caves in Iceland where one whisper echoes for 20 seconds. There are chapels in Italy where a single note becomes a river of song. These places become instruments themselves. They do not just hold sound, they sing with it. And yet not all sound is welcome. In cities, noise can overwhelm: horns, engines, machines, shouting, clatter. Noise pollution has become a health concern, affecting sleep, blood pressure, even learning. The body cannot always tune it out. It listens even when you do not want it to. In these moments, silence becomes a refuge, a gentle shield. People seek quiet rooms, soft music, the hush of nature to let the nervous system rest, to reset the rhythm. Still, even the noisiest moment is a teacher. Every sound reveals something: the material it passed through, the energy that made it, the distance it traveled. Echoes can tell you the shape of a room. A knock can reveal a hollow wall. A creak can warn of something shifting. Sound is not just heard, it is read, felt, studied, and trusted. There is something deeply poetic about how sound lives in time. It exists only in the moment. Unlike a painting or a sculpture, sound must be heard to exist. It leaves no permanent shape, only memory. A note played on a piano fades even as it begins. A bird's call vanishes into the sky. A voice echoes and then is gone. And yet these fleeting waves leave marks on the heart. They are fragile and powerful all at once, like ripples in glass, like breath in winter air. So let us stay with the idea a little longer. Sound is vibration, yes, but it is also communication, emotion, science, and soul. It ties together the physics of air, the biology of the ear, the memory of the brain, and the poetry of presence. It is both particle and wave, both force and feeling. It can shake mountains or cradle a child to sleep. In every sound we hear, there is an invitation to notice, to feel, to understand, to wonder how something invisible can move us so deeply. The science behind sound is precise, but the experience of sound is personal, intimate, ever-changing. And in that space between science and self, a soft truth hums that to hear is to connect, not just to the world but to what lives inside it and inside us. Now imagine the last sound of the day. The final creak of a house settling into the hush of evening, the murmur of wind brushing against a window pane. Somewhere in that fading quiet, the story of sound finds its resting place, not in the ears but in the spaces in between. This is where we end, in the tender silence after the sound has passed and the world breathes softly once more. But even here something stirs. because silence, too, has texture. It is not the absence of sound, but the gentle presence of stillness, a canvas stretched and waiting, shaped by what came before. The body knows this place. After a long day of voices, footsteps, and music, it leans into the calm, listening not outward but inward. You begin to notice your own rhythms, the hush of a breath, the slow drumbeat of a heart. Inside your chest, sound continues, quiet and private. Your bones, your skin, your blood all hum in their own way. Even as the world quiets, your inner world carries on. This is the sound of being alive. Scientists once believed that true silence could be found, that there might exist a place so still, so perfectly quiet, that no sound could enter. But the deeper they searched, the more they discovered that silence is never absolute. In underground bunkers, deep ocean trenches, soundproof chambers, always there is something. The whisper of molecules, the stretch of earth, the tiny trembling of atoms. Even in space, though sound cannot travel, other waves do, faint pulses, distant flares, electromagnetic sighs. The universe speaks in a language beyond ears, and we are just beginning to learn how to listen. Perhaps this is why ancient traditions speak of the sound of silence, not as an oxymoron but as a truth. In the quiet, something speaks. A kind of awareness emerges, a sense that every sound you've ever heard is part of something larger and every silence holds it all in its arms. It is here in this softened listening that reflection begins. You remember the voices of loved ones, the music that once lifted you, the calls of birds at dawn, the rush of wind through trees. They return, not as noise, but as warmth. Sound teaches us about presence. A note exists only when it is heard. It lives and vanishes in the same breath. But in that moment, it is everything. It calls your attention, sharpens your senses, opens your heart. Even the smallest sound, the scratch of a pen, the click of a door, the sigh of a sleeping pet, reminds you that you are in the world, surrounded by life, surrounded by movement. And when the sound fades, its absence leaves a shape behind. That is the shape of memory. Across the planet, people have used sound to shape ritual and meaning. In temples, bells ring to open a sacred space. In cathedrals, voices rise in song to lift the spirit. In villages, drums mark the passing of time. Even the lullaby sung to a child carries the wisdom of generations, melodies passed down like old stories, wrapped in breath and vibration. These are not just sounds, they are offerings. And in each one, the science of sound intertwines with the heart's longing to be known, to be held, to be heard. In recent years, scientists have explored how sound affects matter in ways we are only beginning to understand. In a field called cymatics, sound is used to shape sand, water, and other substances into beautiful symmetrical patterns. A low note creates wide, pulsing rings. A higher pitch draws tight, intricate forms. It is as though sound reveals the geometry hidden in the world. The invisible becomes visible. The vibrations become art. And in that art, you can almost see the breath of the universe, drawing shapes from silence. Even more mysterious is how some scientists and doctors now use sound in healing. Low-frequency vibrations have been studied for their effects on bones, blood flow, and pain relief. Music therapy is used to reach people with memory loss, helping them recall parts of themselves that words cannot touch. In neonatal wards, soft sounds mimic the womb, helping premature babies grow and rest. The body listens not just through ears, but through cells, nerves, and tissue. Sound, it seems, is a medicine as old as breath. And then there is the question of the future. As we move into a world of machines and screens, of automation and digital code, sound remains one of the most human things we have. Voice assistants speak to us. Alarms wake us. Headphones keep us company. Yet the beauty of natural sound, the call of an owl, the babble of a brook, the crackle of fire, still calls to us with ancient comfort. Perhaps this is why people seek out nature recordings, white noise machines, and guided sleep stories. We do not just want quiet. We want meaningful quiet, quiet shaped by sound, framed by feeling. In the end, sound is a bridge. It connects the inside to the outside, the seen to the unseen, the now to the memory. It is science, yes, vibration, frequency, wave. But it is also poetry, spirit, breath. It invites us to pause, to listen, to wonder, and in that listening we find ourselves. So the whisper that travels through air becomes more than just a ripple. It becomes a thread, weaving between people and places, between past and future. It reminds us that even the smallest vibration has power, that even the briefest sound can carry love, meaning, or beauty. And when all sound fades, what remains is not emptiness, but the memory of being touched by something invisible and real. Let your ears rest now. Let the quiet settle around you. Know that the science of sound is always close, in every footstep, every breath, every heartbeat. And in the silence that follows, the story continues, soft and deep, always waiting to be heard once more. Silence is never truly silent. Beneath the quiet of a still room, below the hush of early morning, there is always a hum, soft, steady, unspoken. It is the sound the world makes when it forgets to speak. It is not loud. It is not even something you always notice. But once you begin to listen for it, you realize it is everywhere. Inside walls, beneath skin, between words. And though silence often feels like an absence, it is, in truth, a presence, one made of subtle motion, hidden rhythms, and the echo of everything that has ever made a sound. From a scientific lens, silence is simply the absence of perceptible sound. But our bodies know better. True silence is rare. Most of the time, what we call quiet is a softened symphony, the low thrum of electricity running through wires, the distant whoosh of wind passing through cracks, the soft drip of pipes, the internal sounds of our own bodies. Even in an anechoic chamber built to eliminate echoes and suppress sound, the body reveals itself. People report hearing their heartbeat, the movement of blood in their veins, even the shifting of their joints. In the deep cradle of quiet, the body becomes a loud place. This hidden hum is part of what scientists call ambient noise, the baseline sound level of any space. It might come from machines, from outside traffic, from the gentle friction of air. Most of the time, we tune it out. Our brains are excellent editors, always deciding what is important and what can fade into the background. But sometimes when we stop and focus, those background sounds rise like a tide. The refrigerator's buzz, the clock's ticking, the dog's slow breathing in the corner. Silence, it turns out, is textured. It has layers. It has depth. Now imagine walking through a forest at dawn. The world has not yet begun its full day of sound. No engines, no footsteps, just the occasional rustle of leaves, a bird's distant call, the creak of trees shifting in the wind. At first it feels silent, but the longer you stand there, the more you hear. A squirrel darting through undergrowth, a brook whispering to stones, the faint sound of your own breath fogging the air. Nature's quiet is never empty. It is full of listening. The same is true inside us. The human body is never truly still. Even in sleep, our organs move, our breath flows, our neurons fire in silent patterns of thought. Inside the ear, the cochlea maintains a low level of electrical activity, even when no sound enters. The brain continues to hum, even in dreams. And in moments of deep meditation or solitude, we may find ourselves tuned to that internal rhythm, the hush that exists behind every word and gesture. It is not quiet in the way the world defines it. It is quiet in the way the soul does. Silence, paradoxically, can be measured. In science, we use a unit called decibels dB to describe sound levels. Total silence would register at 0 dB, a place of no detectable sound. But in real life, even a whisper is around 30 dB, a quiet room, about 40. A forest in the early morning might fall to 20. A true anechoic chamber may reach -9 dB, quieter than anything we are used to, yet still not absolute. Because even then, we bring our own vibrations into the space. Our body refuses to be silent. This leads to a curious realization. Silence is not about the world stopping. It is about our relationship to it. We seek silence not because we want nothing, but because we want space to think, to rest, to breathe. Silence allows the noise to settle like dust in a sunbeam. It lets the mind unfold. It opens room for things we often overlook: stillness, reflection, memory, sensation. It is not an emptiness but a widening, a calm field where thought can stretch its limbs. Artists and musicians have long played with this idea. Composer John Cage famously wrote a piece titled 433, in which the performer plays nothing for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. The audience, at first confused, begins to hear the world instead: coughs, footsteps, the shifting of seats, the air itself moving. The silence becomes the music. What was meant to be absence becomes presence. Cage later explained that he wanted people to realize there is no such thing as pure silence, only the listening we bring to it. And so silence becomes a frame, a space in which sound happens, but also one that gives sound its meaning. Without silence, music would have no rest, speech would have no pause, poetry would have no rhythm. In every conversation, it is the quiet between phrases that allows the words to breathe. Without that space, everything would collapse into noise. Even in science, silence gives shape to discovery. Astronomers wait through long, quiet nights for signals to arrive. Biologists pause between experiments, letting stillness reveal results. Silence is not the absence of progress. It is the breath between steps. Some scientists now study silence as a health tool. In a world filled with artificial noise, traffic, alerts, chatter, engines, the nervous system rarely finds peace. But studies show that even 2 minutes of silence can lower blood pressure, reduce heart rate, and ease muscle tension. Silent environments activate the brain's default mode network, the part associated with daydreaming, introspection, and creativity. In that calm space, the brain reorganizes. It heals. It thinks differently. It wanders in the best possible way. Even in architecture, silence is being reconsidered. Libraries once prized hushed reading spaces, but now many are bringing silence into new forms: meditation rooms, quiet pods, sound-dampened areas for reflection. Hospitals, once buzzing with machines, are reintroducing silent hours to support healing. And homes are being designed with sound in mind. Soft walls, carpets, curtains, and windows that keep the noise of the world outside, letting peace settle inside like a cat curling in a warm corner. Let us drift gently now toward the idea that silence is not one thing but many. There is the silence of peace, a child asleep, the sky before dawn. There is the silence of tension, a room holding its breath, a pause before bad news. There is the silence of awe, standing before the ocean or in a cathedral of redwood trees. There is even the silence of deep listening, when one person gives another their full attention without interruption. In each case, silence carries weight. It is filled with meaning. It hums beneath the noise. And so, as we listen deeper, we begin to hear what was always there, not just the sounds that surround us, but the silence that supports them. It is the soft container of all things, the invisible bed where every sound is laid to rest, the breath before speech, the space after music, the stillness that teaches us how to hear. Let's drift further into the quiet layers of silence and begin to feel the many ways it shapes the world. There is a silence that rests in stone, buried beneath the noise of footsteps and machines. There is silence in snow, falling through a winter night, softening the edges of sound until all you hear is breath. And there is silence within language, the gentle pause between words, the space that lets meaning rise. But perhaps the most mysterious silence lives in the body itself, where the loudest moments are often wordless, where emotions build without sound, and understanding flows without speech. Scientists studying the brain have begun to see silence not as empty time, but as an active moment, a time when the brain works in a different rhythm. During quiet moments, regions responsible for memory, imagination, and self-reflection begin to glow. Without sound to process, the mind begins to wander, stitching thoughts together, repairing itself, revisiting forgotten memories. Some researchers believe silence may be as vital to brain health as sleep. It gives the nervous system a moment to soften, a place to find balance, a space to gently sort the day's impressions. There are stories of people who have gone into silence for long stretches: monks in monasteries, seekers in remote caves, travelers in the quiet deserts. Many report a sharpening of perception. Without the daily tide of voices, their senses become more attuned. They begin to hear things previously missed: the sound of their own pulse, the buzz of a fly's wings, the rhythm of their breath. But more than that, they begin to feel the shape of silence as something alive, something present. It becomes a companion rather than a void. Even in modern life, silence plays a role in how we understand time. In music, the pause is as powerful as the note. In film, a moment of stillness can carry more emotion than dialogue. In literature, the unspoken often says the most. Silence becomes a signal of suspense, of intimacy, of reverence. A moment of quiet after a tragedy, a deep breath before a confession. These silences linger in the mind long after the noise has faded. They are not gaps, they are anchors. The animal world, too, understands the power of silence. Predators move in quiet to stalk their prey. Birds pause between calls to listen for danger. Elephants fall silent when mourning a loss. And in the deep ocean, some species communicate not through sound but through patterns of stillness, movements without noise. Silence can be a sign of awareness, of alertness, of intelligence. It is a way of saying, "I am listening," or "I am waiting," without a single word spoken. Technology has changed our relationship with silence. We live in a world of constant alerts, phones, machines, digital voices. Even when alone, many people fill the space with sound, music, podcasts, background chatter. Some fear silence, not because it is unpleasant, but because it feels unfamiliar. It becomes a mirror reflecting thoughts they would rather not face. But it is in silence that we often hear the clearest truths, the gentle knowing that rises only when the noise dies down. There is a reason many spiritual traditions embrace silence, not as punishment but as practice. Silence teaches presence. It draws the listener inward. It becomes a way to return to stillness, to center. In silent meditation, people often describe a vast inner space opening up, where thoughts drift like clouds and awareness deepens like a well. There, in the absence of external sound, the inner voice begins to speak, not with words but with feelings, with clarity, with insight. It is in this silence that transformation begins. Even in science, silence has opened new paths of inquiry. In the field of bioacoustics, researchers study the sounds of ecosystems to understand biodiversity. But it is the loss of certain sounds, the silencing of a bird species, the vanishing of insect hums that signals ecological change. Silence becomes a warning. Something is missing. Something has fallen still. In this way, silence speaks volumes. It reveals what once was and what may never be again. Artists have used silence to challenge the senses, to make people see the world differently. Installations that use soundproofing to create complete stillness can cause physical disorientation, reminding us just how deeply our balance, mood, and focus depend on subtle ambient sounds. In these spaces, people often report hearing their own muscles moving, their bones adjusting, their eyelids fluttering. It can be comforting or it can be unnerving, but always it is revealing. Even medicine has started listening more closely to silence. Some hospitals now create quiet zones to help patients heal. Noise can raise cortisol levels, increase anxiety, and disrupt rest. But silence, gentle, protective silence, can support recovery. It lowers heart rate, supports immune function, and fosters deep sleep. Doctors now understand that healing does not only happen through treatment, but also through environment. And silence is part of that environment. But perhaps one of the most touching aspects of silence is how it deepens connection. In moments of grief, people often sit together without speaking. In moments of love, they may lie side by side in quiet. Silence becomes a shared language, one that speaks of presence, comfort, understanding. It is in these wordless moments that bonds grow stronger. We remember that being near someone is sometimes more powerful than anything we could say. That silence can say, "I see you," or "I'm here," more clearly than words ever could. There is also creative silence, the pause before inspiration, the empty page before the poem, the blank canvas before the first stroke of color. It is in this silence that imagination breathes. It waits patiently, not rushing, not forcing. Creativity often begins in the still places when the noise of expectation falls away and the quiet invites something new to enter. And in nature, silence holds beauty that cannot be replicated. The stillness of a snowy field, the deep quiet of a canyon at dusk, the pause between waves crashing on the shore. These moments remind us that sound is not the only way the world speaks. Sometimes the earth whispers not with vibration but with stillness, and in that stillness we remember our place not as rulers but as listeners. So let the silence grow a little larger inside you. Let it stretch across the mind like a soft sky. Know that it is not empty. It is full of thought, of emotion, of wonder. It is not lifeless. It is simply gentle, like the dark that holds the stars, like the breath that holds the word, like the pause that holds the truth. In the end, silence is not the opposite of sound. It is its partner, the other side of the same wave, and only together do they make music. Let's return now to the quiet space where sound fades and silence breathes, where the world softens its voice, and the hidden parts of life begin to stir. In this final stretch of stillness, we begin to understand that silence is not just a lack of sound, but a state of being. It is not a blankness, but a container. It does not erase meaning, it cradles it. And as we sit gently in the hush, we start to feel the quiet truths that lie beneath every noise, every word, every movement. Silence, like breath, is both presence and pause. In cities, where sound is a constant tide, silence can feel like a stranger. Yet even there it lives tucked into the early hours of the morning, or the empty bench beneath a sleeping tree, or the moment between a subway's departure and a pigeon's wings. Urban silence is different. It is laced with echoes. It is built from contrast, and it reminds us that stillness can survive even in the busiest places if we remember to listen for it. In these moments, the noise becomes a curtain, and behind it the quiet waits patiently. But silence is not only something we find in the world, it is something we cultivate. Within us are vast inner landscapes, valleys of thought, forests of memory, open skies of imagination. When we let go of the noise around us, those inner spaces begin to open. We hear ourselves differently. We become witnesses to our own being. And in that gentle witnessing, there is healing. Silence helps us process, repair, and reconnect. It gives the mind room to breathe and the heart room to speak. Think of the silence that follows a long cry, that deep, trembling stillness where the world feels hushed and the body feels raw but clear. Or the silence after laughter when joy has lifted and the space it leaves behind is warm and bright. These are not empty moments. They are full of life, full of meaning. Silence, in its many forms, holds the shape of the experience just past. It is the gentle afterglow, the quiet heartbeat, the final word without sound. Science has begun to explore silence not just as a concept, but as a force. In physics, silence is the result of cancellation, waves that oppose each other, vibrations that balance into stillness. In psychology, silence becomes a tool used in therapy to let deeper feelings rise, to give space for honesty to unfold. In technology, engineers study noise cancellation, designing machines that carve out silence by producing reverse patterns of sound. All of this shows that silence is not passive. It is shaped, created, earned. It is something we build and protect. Even in sound itself, silence plays a starring role. Musicians often say that rests are what make the notes sing, that the beauty of a melody lies not just in what is played, but in what is not. Silence sets rhythm. It shapes meaning. A single pause can turn a simple tune into something breathtaking. In jazz, silence creates tension and release. In classical music, it gives grandeur. In lullabies, it rocks gently between notes, comforting and calm. Writers, too, know the value of white space, a paragraph break, an unfinished sentence, a slow, quiet scene. These are the moments when the story breathes, when the reader pauses, when emotion rises without being named. In storytelling, as in life, it is often the unspoken that speaks the loudest. And silence, in its subtle way, becomes a narrator of its own, one that whispers truths words cannot hold. And perhaps silence is most sacred in the moments before and after love, the quiet before a first kiss, the hush that follows a soft goodbye. These silences shimmer with feeling. They carry weight like air thick with morning fog. And though no words are spoken, entire volumes are exchanged. The breath of waiting, the stillness of knowing, the tremble of goodbye. These are the softest kinds of communication and also the strongest. In the natural world, silence shifts with season and light. Winter brings deeper stillness. Snow muffles sound, trees grow quiet, even animals retreat into hushed rhythms. And in these colder, quieter months, we are reminded that the earth, too, needs rest. That life flows in cycles of noise and peace, growth and pause. And in following those rhythms, we reconnect with something old and wise. The silence of the seasons speaks of renewal, of patience, of deep time. Cultural silence is a language in itself. In some places, silence is a sign of respect, not awkwardness, but honor. In others, it is a sacred part of prayer. In yet others, it is a form of resistance, a refusal to speak where speech would betray. Silence can be heavy with pain or light with reverence. It can be an invitation or a boundary, and in every case it tells a story. It speaks without speaking. It listens while holding space. Even children in their instinctual wisdom understand the power of silence. A child curled up under a blanket, quiet but not sad. A child staring out a window, watching the rain. These are not signs of boredom. They are signs of presence. Children know without being taught how to be still, how to daydream, how to sit with themselves. And in many ways, adulthood is a return to that forgotten skill, learning again to sit quietly, to listen deeply, to be enough in the silence. In the end, silence is a kind of homecoming. It brings us back to ourselves. It clears the clutter. It washes the noise from our skin and leaves behind only what is true. And though we may move through sound, though we may speak and sing and shout, we always return to silence in sleep, in thought, in love, in loss. It is the final note of every song, the final word of every story, the final breath before dreams take over. So let the silence be soft around you now. Let it hold you like warm light. Let it remind you that you are more than the noise that surrounds you, that within the quiet there is understanding, there is depth, there is peace. The hum beneath the noise is not absence. It is presence, steady, calm, and endlessly alive. And when the world grows loud again, when voices rise and machines stir, you will carry this silence within you, a quiet center, a still place, a gentle reminder that beyond all sound, there is something greater, something waiting, something timeless. The silence that hums beneath the noise is always there, and it is listening. Deep beneath our feet, under soil and roots in the passage of time, there lies a hidden language, slow, steady, and made not of words but of echoes. Every stone you've ever stepped on, every cliff you've gazed at, every pebble tossed into a quiet stream carries within it a memory of sound. Though they do not speak like birds or hum like the wind, stones listen. And when the right forces come along, pressure, vibration, time, they whisper back in echoes too old to hear, too deep to hold, yet always there. In the quiet bones of the earth, sound finds a way to linger. When a sound is made, it doesn't simply vanish. Some of it travels through the air, reaching ears or fluttering away. But some of it dives deep, into the ground, into walls, into mountains. It moves through solid things like stone in slow, patient waves. These are seismic vibrations, and they ripple through the earth in much the same way sound travels through air. But here, the molecules are packed tighter, the resistance is greater, and so the message moves differently, heavier but farther. Stones do not forget what they have felt. They carry the echoes. Geologists and seismologists study these echoes with machines that measure vibration. A whisper becomes a tremor. A drumbeat turns into a pattern. When an earthquake shakes the ground, its waves spread in every direction, some through the surface, some deep into the core. As these waves move, they pass through layers of rock, reflecting and refracting, changing speed and shape. From this, scientists can learn what lies beneath soft rock or hard, wet or dry, dense or porous. They do not have to dig. They simply listen, and the stone tells them. In ancient times, people noticed this too in different ways. They learned that some caves sing back when you speak into them. These are not coincidences. The shape of a space, its angles and curves, can trap sound, stretch it, return it altered and strange. Echoes in caves are not just amusing, they're maps of the space itself. Indigenous cultures once chose sacred sites for their acoustic properties, places where voices seemed to linger, where footsteps echoed long after they were taken. Sound to them was spirit, and stone was its keeper. Even in architecture, echoes have long guided design. Ancient amphitheaters carved from stone were built with precise curves to carry voices outward without amplification. A whisper on stage could reach the last row. These places, still standing, hum with old sound. If you stand quietly in the center of one, you may hear the ghost of 1,000 plays, 100 songs. The stones remember. Their shape holds every vibration that ever passed through them, soft impressions of moments long gone. But the story goes deeper still. Modern scientists have begun to study how rocks themselves can emit sound, not just echo it. When rock is under pressure, say, in the slow, grinding collision of tectonic plates, it can release what's known as acoustic emissions. These are high-frequency sounds, too soft for humans to hear but clear to the instruments that watch Earth's bones. They happen before earthquakes, sometimes days in advance. A kind of groaning breath, a whisper of strain. In this way, the Earth warns us gently through sound. Even in the quietest places, the deep crust, the heart of mountains, the floor of deserts, these vibrations move. Tiny movements shift grains of sand, tilt stones, stretch walls of rock so slowly we'd never notice. But seismometers do. They pick up these minute echoes like stethoscopes pressed to the chest of the world. Through them, we hear the heartbeat of the Earth. But what of the stones that have stood for centuries in silence? Stones placed by human hands, monoliths, temples, tombs, these too carry echoes. In cathedrals built of granite and limestone, every prayer, every footstep, every organ note has passed into the walls. And in some spaces, those sounds still bounce years later, subtly shaping how we feel when we enter. Have you ever walked into a building and felt hushed, even before you said a word? That is the echo at work. The stone has been filled with sound, and it returns the favor by asking you to listen. There is even a theory more poetic than proven that ancient stone tools may carry the echo of their own making. When a flint is struck, when a chisel breaks the edge of marble, a burst of energy is released, not just in the form of light or motion, but in sound. Some believe that in the microscopic structure of those tools, tiny scars remain, shaped by the vibration that made them. And while we may never extract that song, it suggests a beautiful idea. That creation leaves a voice behind, even in stone. The Earth itself has a frequency. It hums constantly at a vibration too low to hear, about 7.83 Hz, known as the Schumann resonance. This hum is not made by any one thing, but by the interaction between lightning, the Earth's surface, and the atmosphere. It travels through rock and sky and body alike. Some researchers believe it affects our sleep, our mood, our biology. Whether or not we feel it, it is always there, wrapping the planet in a soft, constant sound like a lullaby beneath everything. So when you hold a stone in your hand, a small, ordinary rock found beside a road or river, know that it has heard things. It has felt vibration. It has been struck by wind, touched by rain, cracked by ice, warmed by sun. It has been moved slowly or suddenly, perhaps by an ancient animal's step, perhaps by the rumble of passing trucks. It has vibrated, however slightly, in response. And in those movements, sound lived. We think of sound as fast shouts and songs and alarms, but stone teaches us that sound can also be slow, that it can stretch across centuries, that it can rest, sleeping within the weight of mountains, waiting for someone to listen. And perhaps that's the quiet miracle of geology, that it is, in part, the study of silent sound, of stories told through pressure and time, through tremors and texture. Stone is not dead. It is simply quiet. And if you are quiet too, you might begin to hear what it's been holding all along. Let's go deeper now, into the layers of stone that lie beneath the surface, into the buried realms where echoes sleep for centuries and pressure sculpts memory. Beneath the grass, below the foundations of cities, the earth keeps a record not in ink or code, but in strata, in texture, in vibration. Each layer of rock is a quiet archive, a pressed-together memory of oceans, winds, forests, and flames. The deeper we go, the further back we listen, and the more ancient the whispers become. Sound in these depths is no longer fleeting, it is fossilized. When seismic waves travel through the earth, they do more than shake the ground, they rend the underground. Primary waves move quickly, like a shiver of tension, compressing and expanding the rock they pass through. Secondary waves come later, slower but stronger, moving side to side, like the sway of tall trees in wind. These waves change as they move through different materials, slowing in soft sediments, speeding in hard stone, bending at boundaries between layers. From this, geologists construct maps, not of sight but of sound. Subsurface echoes reveal underground rivers, magma chambers, fault lines, and ancient rock beds. The earth becomes an instrument, and science is the ear that listens. And yet the earth's voice is not only about danger, it is also about wonder. In Iceland, scientists have listened to glaciers as they melt, tiny clicks and pops as air trapped for millennia escapes into the present. In Hawaii, lava flows produce deep, low-frequency sounds as molten rock shifts and cools, its surface crackling like a whisper in another language. Even in deserts, dunes sing. When grains of sand tumble in large numbers, they generate a humming tone that can last for minutes, a natural song composed by wind, slope, and sun. These sounds reveal something extraordinary, that stone, so often thought of as still and lifeless, is in constant dialogue with its surroundings. It responds to heat, to cold, to pressure, to motion. It moves slowly but surely. It expands, it contracts. It vibrates when walked on, when rained on, when struck by lightning. And in each vibration there is information. There is presence. There is sound. We are simply not always equipped to hear it. But we are learning. With the help of laser sensors, accelerometers, and hydrophones, researchers now capture the tiniest tremors, events that once would have gone unnoticed. In Italy, scientists listen to the subtle vibrations of the Leaning Tower of Pisa, detecting its sway in the breeze. In South Africa, deep inside gold mines, they place sensors to hear the earth settle and shift. These instruments have revealed a new truth. The planet is never silent. It is always moving, always murmuring, always alive. Even in archaeology, sound has begun to rewrite the past. By studying the acoustics of ancient chambers, researchers are discovering that some tombs and temples were designed with sound in mind. In Malta, the Hal Saflieni Hypogeum, a 6,000-year-old underground temple, contains a chamber that resonates powerfully at certain low frequencies. When a voice speaks within it, the entire space seems to vibrate. Some believe these spaces were created to heighten ritual, to move the spirit, to echo the sacred. The stones, shaped by human hands, were meant not only to hold bodies, but to sing with them. Even without instruments, our bodies can feel the sound within stone. Lean your hand against a large boulder, and if a truck passes nearby, you may feel a faint tremble through your fingertips. Sit in a cave during a thunderstorm, and the rock around you may seem to breathe. These are not just metaphors. They are real sensations, vibrations traveling through dense material, reaching you not through air but through contact. In this way, the body becomes another listener, another part of the ancient chain. It is this idea that the world can be known through vibration that links geology to music, science to emotion. Because sound is not only for hearing, it is for feeling. And stones, though they cannot move or speak in the way we do, feel sound in every cell. Their fractures, their layers, their scars are shaped by the songs of earthquakes and the music of motion. Each line is a sentence. Each crack is a syllable. Each smooth surface is a breath held for centuries. There are even stories, both scientific and poetic, of meteorites that ring like bells when struck. These ancient travelers, forged in the silence of space, then hurled to Earth, carry within them structures so resonant that their touch produces tone. Some indigenous groups have revered these rocks not just for their origin, but for their voice. A gift from the sky that sings when held, a message from a place beyond sound. And in more modern times, we've begun to shape stone into instruments, xylophones made from granite, sculptures that chime in the wind. Artists and engineers collaborate to find the frequencies within each piece, cutting and polishing until the rock releases its hidden music. These are not simple tasks. It takes patience, precision, listening. And in that careful process, we are reminded that sound, even when trapped in silence, can be freed with care. This connection between stone and sound extends even to memory. Gravestones, monuments, ruins, these, too, echo, not with audible voices but with the weight of meaning. When we touch them, when we read the names, when we feel the chill of their surface, a different kind of sound rises, one shaped by grief, reverence, time. The stone does not speak, and yet we hear. In that silence, 1,000 stories echo. So as we walk upon the ground, as we touch walls, as we rest against cliffs and sit upon ancient steps, we participate in something vast and ongoing. The stone beneath us is not still. It is listening. And it is answering not in shouts, not in music, but in gentle, patient echoes. If we learn to feel them, we learn to hear the world differently. Not just as a place of noise and words, but as a chorus of quiet things, singing slowly, endlessly through time. Let us now ease into the closing layers of this quiet story, where stone becomes more than material. It becomes memory, presence, and voice. Not the kind of voice we hear in speech or song, but the slow voice of time itself. In every mountain, in every canyon wall, in every riverbed, stone tells a story not with sound but with vibration, shape, and silence. These stories unfold not in seconds or years, but in eras, in epochs. And yet they are deeply intimate. For in the presence of stone, we sense how small we are, and how connected we have always been. There is a reason humans are drawn to stone. We build with it, we carve it, we sit upon it, we return to it when we seek stillness. A stone bench in a quiet garden, a path lined with smooth pebbles, a mountain trail winding through cliffs, these are not just scenery. They are places where we come to listen, even when we don't know it. Stone slows us down. It reminds us of endurance. It makes no demand for attention, and yet it holds our gaze. When we pause beside stone, we enter its rhythm, one of patience, of silence, of wait. Ancient monuments offer this lesson in their stillness. The Great Pyramid, Stonehenge, Petra, the Moai of Easter Island. These structures do not sing, but they hum with presence. They echo with footsteps, with chants, with centuries of wind and sun. Sound has passed through them again and again, brushing their faces and archways, etching itself into the pores of the stone. Though their builders are gone, their sound remains faint but constant. If you close your eyes in such a place, you may feel it, a low, wide resonance beneath your skin, like something speaking slowly from far below. There are stories in science about memory held in matter, not just in devices or data, but in the properties of the materials themselves. Piezoelectric stones like quartz, when compressed, generate electric charge. They can also respond to sound, vibrating under certain frequencies. This makes them useful in watches, microphones, and even medical equipment. But it also reveals a strange truth. That stone, once thought inert, can respond to energy and in some cases carry it. It listens. It pulses. It remembers in its own way. In temples across the world, acoustics are shaped by stone. Some halls amplify a single voice to fill the space. Others swallow sound, creating an eerie stillness where every step is absorbed. Architects of the ancient world knew this. They designed with intuition, with trial and error, with ears tuned to space. They may not have had decibel meters or frequency graphs, but they had stone, and they listened to how it breathed. The walls of such places hold more than bricks. They hold the feeling of those who stood there, sang there, wept there. Every emotion, softened by time, still rests in the curve of an arch, the coolness of a pillar. And beyond human hands, nature carves its own symphonies in stone. Wind tunnels through canyons, singing over ridges and into crevices. Water trickles down limestone, dripping into underground pools, each drop creating a note in the dark. Ice cracks granite in the silence of winter, splitting it with no audience but the sky. These are not accidents. These are natural performances, sculpted by physics, by temperature, by time. Earth is always composing, always rehearsing its silent music in the bones of its own body. In this way, we are part of the same system. Our own bones are mineralized. Our teeth, our skulls, our joints, they carry vibration. When we speak, when we laugh, when we cry, our bodies echo. Sound moves through us, not just to our ears, but through our flesh. We are in part stone, and stone in part is us. This kinship is not poetic alone, it is biological, it is geological, it is true. So when you sit quietly beside a large stone or press your palm to the side of a cliff, You are not just touching the past, you are entering a relationship. You are offering your own stillness in return. And in that silent exchange, something timeless occurs. A resonance, a calm, a knowing. The earth listens and you listen back. Some scientists have even begun to experiment with storing digital sound in crystals, microscopic vibrations encoded in lattices of matter. Though early in development, this research suggests that even our modern memories, our music, our voices, may one day live inside stone, humming gently for centuries. This would not be new. It would only be a continuation of what has always been true, that stone is a keeper of echoes. And what of the stones we skip across rivers? The ones we pocket as children, smooth and warm from the sun. These, too, are part of the story. Though small and overlooked, they have rolled through time, carried by glacier or stream, shaped by collision and rest. They have known silence. They have known motion. They have known the weight of the world above them. And now, in your hand, they vibrate faintly with the sound of your steps, your voice, your breath. They join your story as you join theirs. Let us not rush from this. Let us rest here a little longer. For in understanding the echoes hidden in stone, we begin to understand a part of ourselves, the part that holds memory not in words but in feeling, not in thought but in presence, the part that listens before it speaks, the part that endures. The stones of the earth have been here long before us and they will remain long after, but for a brief moment we share the same space, the same sound, the same breath, and in that moment everything is quiet, everything is connected, everything hums. So as you move forward, listen differently. When your feet touch the ground, when your back leans against a wall, when you sit beneath a tree with roots in the bedrock, listen. The echoes are there, soft, patient, ancient, waiting not to be heard but to be felt. The stone is not silent, it is only slow, and in its slowness it teaches us how to hear. There is a song playing inside you right now, quiet, constant, and older than memory. It does not rise in melody or follow notes on a page, but it pulses in every cell, in every breath, in every silent beat of life. This music is not made by instruments, and yet it has rhythm. It is not taught, and yet every creature on earth knows how to perform it. The heart plays its steady drum. The lungs move in waves. The nerves spark in electric patterns. And deep inside, even the smallest particles hum with invisible vibration. Every living thing carries this music, not as an echo from outside, but as a voice from within. From the moment a cell is born, it begins to move. Its membrane quivers, its proteins fold, its structures stretch and contract like fingers in a dance. Under a microscope, life does not sit still. It ripples, it cycles, it sings not in sound but in motion. And though our ears may not catch the melody, science has begun to translate these patterns, turning heartbeat rhythms into soundscapes, mapping brain waves into frequencies, even measuring the way DNA coils like a helix in musical ratios. What we once thought of as silent is full of song. The human body alone is an orchestra of layered rhythms. The heart, on average, beats 60 to 100 times a minute. Each beat sends waves of pressure through arteries, felt as a pulse. This rhythm shifts with emotion, with movement, with breath. It responds to music we hear, to words we speak, to thoughts we think. Then there is the breathing, about 12 to 20 cycles a minute, rising and falling like the tide, syncing with the heartbeat in ways we are only beginning to understand. Together, these systems create a pattern, a duet of motion, vital and responsive. Even the brain, that quiet fortress of thought, is built upon waves. Neurons communicate with electricity, tiny jolts that ripple across synapses like sparks along a wire. These electrical patterns form brain waves, alpha for calm, beta for focus, delta for sleep. These waves can be measured, visualized, and yes, even converted into sound. Some researchers now record brain waves and transpose them into music. The result is haunting, tones that rise and fall like tides, each one unique to the mind that created it. In this way, we carry our own soundtracks, invisible but always playing. But the music of life is not limited to humans. Every creature carries its own rhythm, shaped by its biology and its environment. Birds sing not just for beauty, but to define territory, to attract mates, to communicate across forests. Whales send low-frequency calls that travel hundreds of miles through water. Frogs croak in choruses, their rhythms sinking under moonlight like amphibian choirs. Even insects perform. Crickets rub their wings, cicadas pulse in unison, bees buzz in modulated pitches that speak of danger or delight. Plants, too, though rooted in stillness, respond to vibration. Experiments have shown that roots grow toward sound, stretching toward the soft hum of water pipes or the frequencies of certain insects. Some scientists now believe plants can detect the vibrations of caterpillars chewing their leaves and respond defensively. These responses are not passive. They are tuned, reactive, intelligent in their own green way. In the world of roots and stems, vibration is language, and silence is never truly silent. At the tiniest scale, even atoms vibrate. In fact, vibration is at the heart of all matter. The molecules that make up your skin, your hair, your bones, they are not still. They tremble, shift, dance. Temperature, in the language of physics, is simply the measurement of how quickly these particles move. And as they move, they generate waves. Some of these waves are sound. Others are light. Some are too small, too fast, too quiet to measure, but they are there, shaping reality. In laboratories, biophysicists have begun studying the acoustic properties of proteins, those complex machines that build and repair our cells. When struck by sound waves at certain frequencies, these proteins vibrate in specific patterns. It's as if each one has its own note. These discoveries have opened the door to something extraordinary. The idea that sound could influence cellular behavior. That healing could be directed not just with medicine, but with carefully tuned frequencies. The future may bring treatments that sing to our cells. And long before science reached these conclusions, many cultures already understood life's musical essence. Indigenous healers used drums to align the body's rhythm with the earth. Yogis spoke of sound currents in the body, vibrations that traveled through breath and posture. Gregorian chants were designed to resonate in the chest and skull. Even lullabies, sung across cultures in different languages, carry similar tempos and tones, designed not to entertain, but to calm the nervous system, to settle the heartbeat, to synchronize mother and child. Modern music therapy continues this ancient wisdom. Patients with memory loss often recall old songs long after other memories fade. People in pain relax to soft harmonies. Those struggling with emotion find clarity in rhythm. It is not just distraction, it is reconnection. The body remembers sound. The heart listens not only to music but to tone, packing, pause. And when music aligns with the body's own rhythm, something beautiful happens. Coherence, ease, peace. Even our voices, the most personal of instruments, are shaped by biology. The vocal cords are small folds of tissue that vibrate as air passes through. Tension, temperature, mood all affect how they sound. But what's more, every person's voice carries a signature, a sonic fingerprint. When we speak, we share more than words. We share mood, health, emotion. Our voices rise with excitement, slow with sadness, tremble with fear. These are not just sounds, they are revelations. So now imagine yourself not as a single body, but as a symphony. Your lungs are the wind section, your heart the percussion, your neurons the strings. Your skin hums with sensation. Your bones carry resonance. Every breath is a note, every blink a pause. You are not separate from music. You are music, moving, responding, vibrating with life. And in the stillest moments, when you sit quietly in a room, when you rest beneath a tree, when you float in a pool, the music continues. It is not loud. It does not need to be. It is the hum of life itself, steady and present, waiting for you to notice it. The music inside every living thing is not something we must create. It is already there, always playing, always singing, in blood, in breath, in being. Let's continue listening, deeper now, to the symphony that lives inside every form of life. Beyond the gentle rhythms of the heart and the lungs, beyond the hum of neurons and the tremble of molecules, there are subtler melodies, songs of connection, of growth, of the quiet intelligence that pulses through every living thing. The music of life is not always grand or loud. Often, it is a whisper tucked inside a leaf, a vibration along a spider's thread, a resonance in the breath of a sleeping animal. Every corner of the natural world moves in time with itself, singing a song that is both individual and shared. Within our own bodies, every organ has its own tempo. The stomach contracts and releases in a slow, rolling rhythm known as peristalsis, guiding food with a movement that resembles waves breaking on a shore. The kidneys filter blood in timed pulses, removing waste with a delicate, repeating beat. The liver cycles through its chemical tasks in circadian rhythm, humming in sync with the turning of the earth. Even our skin, constantly shedding and renewing, carries a soft cadence of life. These processes may seem silent, but each is driven by vibration, by the tiniest of movements that echo like inaudible drums. At the cellular level, this musicality becomes more precise. Cells communicate with one another using biochemical signals that come in pulses, bursts of calcium, flickers of electrical change, surges of chemical messengers. These bursts are timed, rhythmic, and measurable. In developing embryos, cells divide in patterns guided by oscillating genes, as if following an internal metronome. Scientists now know that these cellular rhythms are not random. They are finely tuned, coordinated, and essential for life. When the rhythm breaks, disease can follow. But when it flows, life builds itself moment by moment, note by note. This pattern continues into the realm of microbes, bacteria that live in soil, in oceans, in our own bodies. These single-celled beings, though tiny, operate in synchronized colonies. Some release light in rhythmic pulses, a phenomenon called bioluminescence. Others form biofilms that grow in cycles, following collective chemical signals like a choir responding to a silent conductor. Even viruses, which are not truly alive, follow timing. Their genetic material enters a host, replicates in steps, and bursts forth according to a hidden beat. There is timing everywhere, and where there is timing, there is music. In the forest, the music grows louder. Trees move with the wind, their branches swaying in natural tempo. Leaves rustle in soft percussion. Birds layer the canopy with song, each species taking a role in the morning chorus. Some scientists now study these daily concerts, finding that the patterns are not random. Birds pause for one another. Some call in pairs. Some sing only at dawn, others at dusk. The forest becomes a layered soundscape, a living composition played out across branches and leaves. Beneath the ground, fungi thread through soil in silent networks, passing signals, sharing nutrients, communicating in pulses that some believe resemble a form of language, or perhaps even thought. In the oceans, too, the music is profound. Whale songs echo through the deep, some lasting hours, others traveling for hundreds of miles. These songs change over time, evolving with each generation, passed down like oral traditions. Dolphins click and whistle in a language of pulses and pauses. Shrimp snap their claws in unison, creating underwater crackles that rival rainstorms. Even coral reefs, seemingly motionless, hum with the sounds of life, the clicking of crabs, the popping of fish, the sway of seaweed. Marine biologists now record these sounds to measure reef health. A vibrant reef is not quiet, it is alive with music. And across the seas, insects bring their own orchestration. Cicadas rise in waves of buzz, their synchronized drones vibrating through summer trees. Fireflies flash in rhythmic patterns, light instead of sound, but still music to the eye. Their pulses are not random, they are timed, matched, shared. In the grass, crickets rub wings in tempo, each chirp a beat, each beat a message. These tiny creatures live in a world of constant rhythm, each movement aligned with weather, with season, with the life around them. Even silence in nature is rhythmic. There are pauses in the forest, breaks in the waves, stillness on a windless night. These rests are as important as the sounds themselves. They create space. They allow for change. They give life room to breathe. The natural world is not always noisy, but it is always musical. Its pauses are not emptiness, but invitation. In the quiet, another rhythm begins. And in human life, we mirror this pattern. Our speech follows cadences. Our walking falls into pace. Our thoughts loop in cycles, moods rising and falling, ideas forming and fading. We may think of ourselves as chaotic, unpredictable, but beneath the surface we are rhythmic beings. We sleep in waves, we wake with the sun, we eat with the day. Our hormones rise and fall in gentle arcs. Our bodies, when at peace, seek coherence, a harmony between breath and heart, between brain and body. When that harmony is found, we feel whole. It is no wonder, then, that music affects us so deeply. When we listen to a slow, steady melody, our hearts begin to match it. Our breathing follows, our stress melts away. Fast rhythms wake us. Gentle rhythms soothe us. A single song can bring tears, joy, memory, movement. It is not magic, it is biology. It is resonance. Music is not outside of us. It is a mirror. It speaks the language of ourselves. And more than this, we create music together. In groups, we sync. Audiences clap in time, choirs breathe as one, dancers match steps without words. Even strangers walking side by side eventually fall into step. This is entrainment, the natural human tendency to fall into rhythm with others. It is not forced. It is not learned. It is innate. In every community, in every culture, rhythm builds connection. It reminds us that we are not separate beings. We are part of something larger, a shared vibration that moves through us all. So when we say that music lives inside every living thing, we do not mean metaphor alone. We mean movement, pulse, pattern, sound. The very structure of life is built on rhythm, on vibration, on waves that carry not just energy but meaning. A single heartbeat repeated enough times becomes a song. A breath stretched into chant becomes meditation. A pause held with care becomes sacred. The music of life is ongoing, uninterrupted. It does not need performance. It does not need applause. It is there when you wake. It is there when you sleep. It is there in the flutter of wings, the curling of leaves, the blinking of stars. And when we tune into it, truly listen, we begin to feel a deep, familiar calm. We remember that we are part of this song, that we belong. Let us now drift gently toward the quiet finale of this living melody, where sound becomes not just science or rhythm, but memory and meaning. The music inside every living thing is not only about what pulses and vibrates, it is also about what endures, what connects, and what lingers long after the song is over. Because while all living bodies eventually quiet, their music does not truly vanish. It leaves behind echoes, impressions, vibrations that ripple into others. In this way, the music of life becomes eternal, not in sound, but in the way it shapes the world around it. Consider the lullaby sung by a mother to her newborn, soft, repetitive, low. This is not simply a tune passed down through generations. It is an ancient form of attunement, a way to bring two nervous systems into harmony. The baby's heart slows, the mother's breath softens, a wave of calm passes between them. And in that moment, something sacred happens. The song becomes more than music. It becomes a memory woven into the child's biology. Long after the notes fade, the feeling remains. We carry these emotional songs throughout life. A melody tied to childhood, a rhythm that reminds us of someone gone, a sound that awakens something we thought forgotten. These are not just associations. They are imprints laid down by the body's own rhythmic responses. Music enters through the ear, yes, but it also touches the skin, the spine, the breath. It becomes a map, marked not in lines but in sensation. And so too do animals remember sound. Birds teach songs to their young, some so complex that they require practice and correction. Elephants respond to calls of relatives from miles away, even after years of separation. Dogs learn the rhythms of their humans, the way we walk, the sound of keys, the creak of the door. Each living thing moves in a pattern, listens to patterns, creates them. And through this, they know their place in the world. Music is not just entertainment, it is orientation. It is identity. But what happens when the music stops? When illness breaks the rhythm, when silence falls where there once was motion? Even here, music remains. In patients with advanced dementia, long after names and faces have blurred, familiar melodies can still unlock clarity. Hands remember how to dance. Mouths remember how to hum. The music reaches a part of the brain untouched by time, a room that stays lit when others have dimmed. This is not only touching, it is powerful. It shows us that the body stores music not just in thought, but in being. In the natural world, too, silence and sound share space. After a storm passes, birds return with cautious song. After winter ends, frogs begin to sing again in thawed ponds. Life pauses, then resumes its music, and even in death, some vibrations continue. The tree that once swayed in wind becomes the violin. The shell once shaped by the sea becomes an instrument held to a child's ear. The body that no longer breathes returns to the soil, enriching the rhythm of roots and fungi. Nothing is truly lost. Every note played returns in another form. Sound has even been used to bring back what was once gone. Scientists have begun reconstructing the songs of extinct birds using related species and computer models. Others are restoring ancient instruments, flutes made of bone, drums carved from wood, to hear the music of civilizations past. In these quiet efforts, we reclaim part of our shared rhythm. We listen not just with curiosity, but with reverence. And still, new music is born each day. A baby's first cry, a bird's first call, the first time someone picks up an instrument and finds a note. This is the ongoing song of life, improvised, unexpected, alive. We do not know how long each melody will last or how far it will carry, but we do know that it will continue, passed from breath to breath, heartbeat to heartbeat, generation to generation. There is also the music we cannot yet hear. In distant galaxies, electromagnetic waves pulse in patterns too vast for our current senses. Deep in the earth, tectonic plates grind and sing in frequencies too low for ears. Inside cells, proteins fold in rhythms we are only beginning to understand. As our technology grows, we are learning to listen differently, to translate vibration into sound, to hear the music written in the bones of the world. Perhaps one day we will hear the song of a single cell in real time. Perhaps we will listen to the chorus of a forest as a symphony of light and movement and breath. But even if we never build those tools, we already carry the ability to feel it, to sense the rhythm of a tree in the way its leaves move, to sense the melody of a friend in the way their voice rises and falls, to sense the harmony of a place in the way it calms or energizes us. The body is an instrument tuned to life. And in those quiet moments, lying in bed at night, walking alone through woods, sitting by the ocean, you might notice it, a thrum, a pulse, a pattern that matches yours. It is not coming from the outside. It is not coming from a speaker or a song. It is life itself, vibrating softly through every cell, every thread of being. So let yourself listen, not just with your ears, but with your breath, with your bones, with your memory. Let yourself be part of the great orchestra of the living world, where every creature plays a part, where every heartbeat matters, where every silence is just the space between notes. The music inside every living thing is not something we must find. It is something we are, always playing, always present, always singing us home. The ocean has a voice. It does not speak in words, yet its language is ancient and powerful. You hear it in the crash of waves on a rocky shore, in the gentle rhythm of tides pulling sand, in the soft bubbling beneath the surface where life stirs unseen. But beyond what we hear, the ocean speaks in waves, not just of water, but of sound. Beneath the surface, it hums and sings, it echoes and whispers. It carries messages from whale to whale, from continent to continent, from storms far away to creatures hidden deep. The ocean is never silent. It is always in motion, always speaking in the language of vibration. Water is a perfect conductor of sound. In fact, sound travels more than 4 times faster through water than through air. This is not because water is lighter. It is because its molecules are packed more closely together, allowing vibrations to pass with less interruption. A sound made in the sea does not fade quickly. It stretches far, bending with temperature and pressure, diving deep and circling back. Some low-frequency calls from the largest whales can be heard across entire ocean basins, lingering for minutes, sometimes hours. These calls are not just sounds. They are echoes of presence, soft signals that carry life across vast blue deserts. The ocean has layers, and each one shapes sound in a different way. Near the surface, the water is warmer, churned by wind and sunlight. Deeper down, the temperature drops and the pressure grows. Somewhere in between is a strange and magical zone known as the SOFAR channel, short for sound fixing and ranging. It is a narrow band, hundreds of meters beneath the surface, where sound can travel the farthest with the least loss. Scientists believe that whales and dolphins use this channel to send their calls across immense distances. Submarines, too, have used it to listen and hide. It is the ocean's own whispering gallery, a place where sound lives longest. And the creatures who live in the sea have learned to master its acoustics. Whales sing in long, patterned sequences, some of them more than 30 minutes long, with distinct melodies that evolve year after year. Each population has its own dialect, its own rhythm, its own cultural memory. These songs are passed from one whale to another like lullabies, like maps, like myths. Dolphins, on the other hand, use clicks and whistles in a complex system of communication that resembles language. They call each other by name, unique sound signatures that identify individuals. These are not just animal calls. They are expressions of identity, of intention, of connection. But it is not only the large, charismatic creatures that fill the ocean with sound. Shrimp, tiny and unassuming, create some of the loudest noises in the sea. The pistol shrimp, for instance, snaps its claw so fast that it creates a bubble that bursts with a sonic pop, stunning prey with shockwaves. Fish, too, hum and grunt and thump. Some make noise by rubbing bones together, others by contracting muscles around their swim bladders. The coral reef, often thought of as a place of color and motion, is also a place of sound. A constant crackling, popping, humming, created by the millions of tiny lives within it. These sounds serve many purposes: attracting mates, marking territory, warning of danger, coordinating movement. And sound travels where light does not. In the deep sea, where darkness is complete, vision is useless, but sound still moves. Here, blind fish hear the faintest tremor. Cephalopods sense vibrations through their soft, intelligent bodies. The ocean floor listens to what swims above. Sound is not just information, it is survival. Humans have only recently begun to listen closely to this underwater world. Using hydrophones, underwater microphones, scientists now record the soundscapes of the sea. What they've found is astonishing. Icebergs cracking, volcanoes rumbling, the hiss of rain falling on the surface from beneath. Even the Earth's crust shifting along ocean ridges can be heard in deep, groaning tones. These are the geologic songs of the planet, low, slow, and filled with power. They shape the rhythms of life below. But alongside these natural sounds, there are new voices in the water, human voices, made not of speech but of machines. The steady thrum of shipping lanes, the blasts of seismic surveys searching for oil, the engines of submarines, the hum of cables, the drone of underwater construction. To us, these may seem distant and quiet, but to the creatures who live there, they are overwhelming. The ocean's language, once clear, is now cluttered. The calls of whales are masked. The navigation of fish is disrupted. Even the delicate larvae of coral, which float silently in search of home, can be misled by noise. This growing noise is called acoustic pollution, and it is one of the least visible but most pervasive threats to marine life. Creatures that rely on sound to find food, to migrate, to mate, now struggle to hear one another. Some change the pitch of their calls. Others go silent. Some abandon old paths. The ocean is becoming louder but less communicative. A place of deep voices and long echoes now echoes back confusion. Yet there is hope. As we learn more, we begin to listen differently. Marine biologists and conservationists now use sound not just to observe but to protect. By recording and analyzing underwater soundscapes, they can track populations, detect stress, and even measure the health of entire ecosystems. Quiet zones are being proposed, areas where human noise is limited, where the ocean can remember its own voice. Ships are being redesigned to run more quietly. Laws are being written to consider not just what we do in the water, but what we sound like while doing it. There is even music being made in response. Compositions built from whale song, reef recordings, glacial drips. Artists and scientists collaborating to remind us that the ocean is not just a place to cross or extract from. It is a world alive with its own voice. A world that once sang alone and now waits for us to listen again. So when next you stand by the sea, when the waves roll in and the foam curls at your feet, listen. Not just to the crash and roar, but to the rhythm beneath. The push and pull, the rise and fall. That is the sound of the ocean breathing. That is the memory of tides older than language. That is the beginning of a story told in waves. The ocean speaks. Not loudly, not always in tones we understand, but clearly if we let it. And in its speech, we hear the deep, slow poetry of a living planet. Let us now drift beneath the surface, deeper into the body of the ocean where light disappears and sound begins to take its truest form. Down here in the twilight and midnight zones, the sea becomes an acoustic cathedral. It is too dark to see, too vast to touch, and yet life flourishes guided not by sight but by vibration. In this shadowed realm where pressure presses inward like a gentle but constant weight, sound becomes the only language that matters. It travels freely, curling around seamounts, brushing along trenches, rising in swells through open water. The ocean at depth is not silent. It is alive with whispering waves. The deep sea is a place of mystery but not of stillness. Everything moves. Giant squids pulse their arms in quiet propulsion. Lanternfish blink in patterns as they rise and fall in the world's largest daily migration. Billions of creatures ascending at night and sinking by day, a movement so massive it can be seen from space. And accompanying all of this is sound. Clicks, pulses, internal echoes that guide and bind. These animals, many blind, navigate by sensing pressure waves, by listening for the flutter of fins and the quiet thrum of nearby hearts. Their world is dark, but never mute. Sound is the soul of orientation in this vastness. Fish use lateral lines, rows of sensory cells that run along their bodies, to detect minute vibrations in the water. With this inner ear of the sea, they feel movement, sense direction, and respond to unseen threats. This sensitivity is so refined that a single flick of another fish's tail can be read as a message. It is a form of spatial music, a way of placing oneself within an unseen world. And when groups of fish swim together in a school, their synchronized turns and fluid formations are not just random beauty. They are choreography guided by constant acoustic feedback. Some of the most haunting sounds in the ocean come not from animals, but from the planet itself. Underwater volcanoes rumble and groan, releasing plumes of sound as they erupt in darkness. Earthquakes shake the seafloor, sending out seismic waves that ripple through the ocean body. These sounds, though far away, are carried efficiently and clearly. Scientists now use them to map the planet, placing sensors on the ocean floor that act like ears pressed to Earth's crust. What they hear is a world in motion, a globe that trembles, sings, breathes beneath us all. But not all sounds in the deep are so grand. Some are soft, ephemeral, the gentle clatter of sediment shifting in a current, the hiss of gas escaping from hydrothermal vents, the rhythmic snapping of deep-sea shrimp hidden in their burrows. These sounds create a background hum, a textured sonic landscape that surrounds every living thing. When a whale sings here, its voice carries through this layered backdrop, each note shaped by ridges, trenches, and thermal gradients. It is not unlike singing in a cathedral. The space responds, echoing and altering the song. The whales especially are masters of this realm. Sperm whales dive to depths of over 1,000 meters, their heads filled with complex nasal structures that act as both amplifier and receiver. Their clicks, sharp and strong, serve as sonar bouncing off squid, fish, even the seafloor, painting acoustic maps in the dark. But they also use these clicks socially, arranging them in patterns called codas. Different families have different codas, accents, in a way passed down from mother to calf. These are not just clicks. They are lineage, culture, memory spoken in rhythm. Blue whales, the largest animals ever to live on Earth, sing in notes too low for us to hear without instruments. These infrasonic moans stretch across oceans, reverberating through the Sofar Channel. It is believed these calls help whales find mates or navigate migration paths, linking them across thousands of kilometers. The songs change subtly each year, adapting, evolving, but always retaining a deep familiarity. To hear one is to feel the breath of something vast, ancient, and tender. And then there are the sounds that remain unexplained: the bloop, the upsweep, the whistle. Strange signals captured by hydrophones, often lasting minutes, sometimes recurring, always mysterious. Some are natural, ice-cracking, deep earthquakes; others remain unknown. For years, these sounds were thought to be animals, perhaps giants we have yet to find. Though many have since been traced to environmental causes, their allure remains. They are a reminder that the ocean still holds secrets, that not every voice has been matched to a mouth. Marine scientists now build detailed soundscapes of different underwater habitats, layering them like musical compositions. A coral reef, rich with pops and hisses. A kelp forest, hushed but alive with sea lion calls and fish grunts. An abyssal plain, empty but echoing. These soundscapes are more than curiosities, they are tools. By monitoring them over time, we can detect changes in ecosystem health. A reef growing quiet is a reef in trouble. A bay that grows louder with motor noise is a place of rising stress. In sound, we hear the ocean's well-being. And sound can also be used to heal. In restoration projects, researchers now use recorded reef sounds to lure fish and larvae back to damaged areas. These broadcasts simulate healthy reefs, drawing life in with familiar acoustic cues. It is like calling lost animals home, using the only language they trust. In this way, sound becomes a bridge not just for communication, but for regeneration. The ocean also speaks to us emotionally. To stand beside it is to feel something shift inside. The rhythmic crash of waves entrains the body, syncing our breathing, slowing our pulse. The low roar of surf acts like white noise, masking chaos, offering calm. Even recordings of ocean sounds are used in therapy, meditation, sleep. It is not just nostalgia or suggestion. It is biology. Our nervous systems recognize the sound of water. We were born of it. It speaks to our most elemental selves. Some theorize that our own rhythms, the beat of the heart, the flow of breath, evolved in tune with the waves. In the womb, we float in warm water, surrounded by pulses and swells. The ocean lives inside us as memory, as origin. And when we return to it in person or in thought, we remember a part of ourselves that is quieter, older, deeper. We feel smaller but also held. So let the ocean speak to you. Let its sounds enter not just your ears but your whole being. Listen to the calls of whales as you would to old stories. Hear the crackle of coral reefs as you would a busy street. Feel the distant echoes of earthquakes as reminders of a living earth. Know that beneath every wave, a conversation is unfolding, ancient, ongoing, rich with meaning. The ocean's voice is not something to translate, but to respect. Not a puzzle to solve, but a harmony to join. We do not need to understand every note to feel its music. We only need to listen, gently, openly, with the patience of the sea itself. Now let us drift to the farthest edge of the tide, where the ocean's song becomes memory, where the waves slow, the surface stills, and only echoes remain. This is where we begin to understand that the voice of the sea is not just a sound to be heard, but a presence to be felt. The ocean does not speak in syllables. It speaks in rhythm, in pressure, in the quiet persistence of motion. And though we may listen with microphones and sensors, the truest listening happens when we quiet ourselves enough to feel its pulse as part of our own. The tides, rising and falling, are the breath of the sea. Pulled by the moon's gravity, they shift the shape of coastlines and the behavior of everything that lives within. Mussels open and close. Crabs retreat and return. The rhythm of the tide becomes a kind of lullaby, ancient and unchanging, reminding all creatures of the cyclical nature of life. This motion, slow and steady, is mirrored in our own bodies, in the circadian ebb and flow of energy, in the rise and fall of emotion, in the pulse that moves blood through our veins. In this way, the sea teaches us patience. It shows us that even the strongest forces move gently. and in the shallow waters near shore, sound plays yet another role, one of guidance. For young fish returning from the open sea, the acoustic signature of a reef or estuary can act like a beacon. Scientists have found that juvenile fish are drawn to familiar reef sound, finding safety and food by following the sonic cues they knew as larvae. The sea, in this way, calls its children home not with maps or lights but with sound. A tone, a hum, a remembered vibration that says, "Here you are safe." Even waves, that most iconic sound of the sea, carry information. The frequency of their breaking tells us about the slope of the shore. The length of the interval between them tells surfers of distant storms. Oceanographers measure these rhythms to study weather, to predict tsunamis, to understand how energy moves across the planet. Waves are not random. They are music created by wind, shaped by distance, tuned by the earth itself. And we, walking along the sand, feel that rhythm in our feet, in our chest, in the spaces between our thoughts. There is also music made by humans in response to the sea shanties of sailors, the chants of islanders, the compositions of composers inspired by surf and storm. These songs reflect our reverence and fear, our longing and awe. They capture the emotional truth of the ocean, that it is beautiful and dangerous, nurturing and indifferent, that it gives and takes, holds and lets go. And in singing back to it, we become part of its voice. Not to compete with its volume, but to harmonize with its meaning. Children playing on the shore may not know any of this, and yet they respond instinctively. They chase the tide and flee it. They dig and splash and laugh. The ocean speaks to them not in science but in joy. Its music is in their movements, in their shrieks and silences, in their wide-eyed stares at the horizon. This is a kind of listening, too, a wild, innocent listening that trusts the sea without needing to explain it. In certain cultures, the ocean is considered an ancestor, a being that holds knowledge and memory. In Polynesian navigation, voyagers learned to read the swells and hear the whispers of distant islands long before they could be seen. They felt changes in wave patterns against the hull of a canoe, interpreting the presence of land from how the ocean's voice shifted. This was not magic. It was deep, practiced listening, a literacy of motion, a fluency in water's speech. And in today's world, where satellites and sonar guide our ships, we are in danger of losing that ancient literacy. We listen to data but not to depth. We chart noise but forget nuance. Yet the sea continues to sing, patiently, patiently, waiting for us to return not just with tools but with attention. There is something sacred in the idea that the ocean's voice has existed far longer than our own. Before language, before cities, before machines, it was already there, crashing, curling, poolsing beneath the moon. And long after we are gone, it will continue. The waves will still fold and unfold on distant shores. The whales will still sing. The reefs will still crackle. The earth will still breathe in rhythm with its water. Perhaps the most profound thing we can do is not to explain this sound, but to honor it, to remember that we are not separate from it, that our own bodies are filled with salt water, that our lungs evolved from creatures of the sea, that our rhythms match its tides. We are ocean-born, ocean-shaped, ocean-bound. So as you leave the shore or close the recording or step back from thought, take a piece of the ocean's voice with you. Let it remind you to move gently, to listen deeply, to speak sparingly and only when necessary. Let the rhythm of the waves soften the pace of your mind. Let the depth of the sea remind you that silence does not mean absence. It means presence, unspoken and vast. The ocean speaks in waves, rising, falling, retreating, returning. And in those waves, it says everything we need to know about time, about connection, about life. All we must do is listen. Your bones are listening. Even now, as you sit in stillness, as no one speaks and no music plays, your bones are sensing vibration, the small shudders of your own heartbeat, the distant hum of movement in the room, the low murmur of the world beyond your skin. Sound does not belong only to the ears. It travels further, deeper, more intimately than that. It moves through the flesh, yes, but also through the skeleton. Your bones, solid and silent, are part of your hearing. They are instruments wrapped in skin. And when the world speaks in deep tones or soft tremors, Your bones respond before your thoughts even have a chance to listen. This way of hearing is older than language. Before creatures had ears, they had bones, and those bones picked up on vibration. Fish still do this today, sensing the movements of predators or prey through the water's pressure. Frogs feel the footfalls of danger through the soil. Even insects, light and winged, have bodies tuned to the vibrations of leaves, twigs, and webs. To feel sound is the oldest form of listening, and in many ways it is the most complete. In humans, this ancient hearing remains. There's a small set of bones deep inside the ear, the hammer, anvil, and stirrup, the tiniest bones in your body. They do not touch the outside world, yet they carry its sound. Vibrations from the air hit the eardrum, then pass through these bones, amplifying and guiding them toward the cochlea, where fluid and hairs turn movement into meaning. But long before sound reaches the ear in this precise way, it also enters through the skull, through the jaw, through the chest. Bone conduction, a kind of inner resonance. You've likely felt it without knowing. The deep bass of a drum not just heard but felt in your chest. The sound of your own voice, echoing in your skull in a way recordings never quite capture. When you hum, it vibrates through your body, tickling your ribs and teeth. This is why singers cover one ear, to hear both the air's sound and the body's sound together. This is why music can soothe you even when it's soft, it travels under the skin. Technology now mimics this natural process. Bone conduction headphones sit outside the ear, sending sound through the cheekbones or jaw. Soldiers, swimmers, runners use them to hear while keeping the ears open to the environment. People with certain forms of hearing loss use them when air conduction fails. But these tools only highlight what evolution already built, a body tuned for vibration. A skeleton that doesn't just support movement but participates in perception. Children often experience this vividly. Bobbies respond to rhythm long before they understand words. A steady rocking, a low voice, the thump of a heartbeat against a parent's chest, these are their first lullabies. They calm not through sound alone but through sensation. The bone remembers what the skin does not. And in many ways that memory stays with us into adulthood. It's why we sway to music, tap feet without thinking, seek hugs not only for comfort but for resonance. We seek vibration. Some ancient traditions understood this well. In many indigenous cultures, healing involved sound not as melody but as pulse, drumming, chanting, stomping. These were not performances. They were rituals designed to synchronize the body. The drum was not only heard through ears but through ground and foot and spine. Even the earth vibrated beneath such sound. It was, in a way, a return to listening with the whole body. Bone has another story, too, one of memory and silence. In archaeology, bones are read not only as remains but as records. A femur can show stress fractures from long walks. Teeth hold patterns from years of chewing. Skull bones carry the echo of childhood nutrition. Each groove and notch is a kind of music, a rhythm of wear, a percussion of survival. These are vibrations captured in matter, a lifetime played in silence and left behind. And within the bone itself, at the microscopic level, cells called osteocytes live in a delicate dance. They sense pressure, load, and vibration. They communicate with one another through fine channels. When you walk, your bones do not passively hold you, they respond. They feel your movement and they change in response. More impact, more strength. Less impact, less density. Your bones adapt to the sound of your life. Even astronauts feel this truth. In space, without gravity's pull, bones lose density. They miss the rhythm of walking, the percussion of daily steps. Without that music, they forget their form. Sound, it seems, is not just heard, it is needed. Not only for communication, but for structure, for memory, for being. And when you speak, when your voice rises in the air, the first place it resonates is within. The vocal cords vibrate, yes, but the whole chest joins in. The jaw, the skull, the spine. This is why we sometimes feel our own words before we trust them. Why certain emotions feel lodged in the throat or echo in the ribs. The bones are part of language. They carry it. They cradle it. They absorb its meaning even when the mind resists. Think of the instruments built from bone, the ancient flutes carved from bird wing and mammoth tusk. Thousands of years old, yet still able to sing when breath is given. These were not just tools. They were the meeting of sound and memory, of life and echo. Bone returned to voice. Matter made music once more. And now in quiet moments your own bones continue this tradition. They do not wait for thunder or symphony. They respond to the smallest sound, the tap of a key, the creak of a floorboard, the hush of breath in the dark. You may not notice, but they do. They listen. They remember. They adjust. So when we say that your bones hear the world, we mean this deeply. They are your first instruments and your last. They carry the beat of your beginnings and the vibrations of all you've walked through. They know the song of your life not through thought, but through rhythm, through pressure, pulse, and silence. You are not just listening with ears. You are listening with your skeleton, with the scaffolding of your being. And in that listening, there is something quiet and profound, a reminder that the world does not need to be loud to be heard. That presence is often sensed more than spoken, that the body, in its stillness, is already attuned to everything around it. Your bones are listening always, and through them so are you. Let us now follow the resonance further, moving from the hidden symphony inside your skeleton into the broader web of connections where the world's vibrations meet the body's. The bones that hear are not only sensing the world's movements, they are also shaping how we exist within it. Every sound, from a subtle shift in the ground to the soft hum of a passing train, reaches the body in waves. And those waves don't stop at the skin. They move inward, ripple through tissue, and settle in bone. The bones absorb, respond, and in doing so, make us part of the greater rhythm of the earth. There is something deeply grounding about this, the idea that your body is not just near the earth but in conversation with it. When your bare feet touch the soil, when your spine aligns with the trunk of a tree, when your hands rest on a stone wall still warm from sun, the bones beneath your flesh hum softly. Not in sound we can hear, but in frequency. In response. It's not a myth or metaphor, it's resonance. A phenomenon known well to musicians, to engineers, to nature itself. In physics, resonance occurs when something vibrates at the same natural frequency as something else. When that happens, the effect is amplified. A voice can shatter a glass because both carry the same pitch. A small wind can collapse a bridge if it matches the rhythm of the structure. And within your body, resonance is happening all the time. Your bones have natural frequencies, and they are constantly receiving input from the world, from footfalls, voices, heartbeats. When something outside matches the frequency within, it stirs a deeper awareness, a memory, a shift. This is why certain sounds move us, even if we don't understand why. The skull, for instance, resonates most clearly between 600 to 1000 hertz. Many of the vowel sounds in human speech fall within this range. So even when someone speaks gently, the tones of their words travel not just into your ears, but through your face and jawbone, echoing within your head before your brain even processes them. The result is more than comprehension, it is feeling. A voice becomes a presence. A vibration becomes trust. We hear others not only with our ears, but with the architecture of our faces. This is also why we feel differently about different types of sound. A low, sustained rumble might cause discomfort. It rattles the ribs, unsettles the chest. But a soft, high-pitched chime can feel soothing. It dances across the skull and fades lightly through the bones. We don't need language to react. Our bones decide for us. They are our silent listeners, shaping emotion and instinct long before thought catches up. The therapeutic world is beginning to embrace this knowledge. Vibroacoustic therapy, the use of low-frequency sound directly applied to the body, has been used to ease pain, reduce anxiety, and support healing. Patients lie on sound tables or wear vests that transmit deep vibrations into their spine and hips. These frequencies are chosen not for what they sound like, but for how they move through bone and muscle. They bypass thought. They go straight to sensation. And in doing so, they calm the nervous system from within. Even music, when played loudly enough, can feel like a full-body experience. Stand too close to a drum or a speaker and you'll feel it in your sternum, in your arms, in your teeth. This is not volume alone, it's contact. The body recognizes music not as an abstract art but as physical pressure, a rhythmic massage from the air itself. In dance, this becomes even more evident. When you move to music, you are responding to vibration with vibration. Bone answers beat. Limb becomes lyric. And when people chant, whether in monasteries, in choirs, or in sacred rituals, they are often tuning their bones. Humming resonates in the skull. Low chants rumble through the pelvis and legs. Repeating sounds in groups synchronizes breath, heart rate, posture. This shared resonance builds connection, not only spiritual but physical. A quiet bond of vibration between people, bodies aligned not just in space but in rhythm. There is a certain power in choosing sounds based on how they feel in the body. This is why many people seek out singing bowls, gongs, or tuning forks. Each produces a pure tone that the bones recognize. A tuning fork placed on the sternum or wrist can send gentle waves through the skeleton, and those waves do not pass without leaving a trace. They ease tension. They settle breath. They remind the body of its own balance. Our ancestors knew this, even if they did not use the language of frequencies and resonance. They built spaces to echo their footsteps. They carved instruments from bone, horn, and wood that would speak to the body as well as the ear. In some cultures, bones were used as rattles or clappers, tools of both rhythm and ritual. Not merely instruments of sound, but objects that remembered. And still today, we carry this echo forward. When we listen to a cello, part of our response is shaped by the way its tones align with our ribcage. When we wear noise-canceling headphones, part of the relief comes not just from quiet, but from the removal of unwanted resonance. Our bones, whether we acknowledge them or not, are always helping us navigate the soundscape of our lives. There is even a theory that bone conduction was one of the first ways early mammals detected predators. Before the development of external ears, vibrations passed through the jaw to the inner ear, warning of danger. That sensitivity remains. It's why sudden bangs make us jump even when we're not looking. Why low-frequency noise causes unease. Our bones are still guardians, alert to tremor, to impact, to the sound of change. This sensitivity can also bring stillness. When we sit in silence, we may think the body is at rest, but beneath the surface, our bones are still listening, to the sound of breath moving through the throat, to the subtle shifting of posture, to the rhythm of the room around us. And in this awareness, there is a gift. We begin to feel the present more clearly, not as a series of thoughts, but as a series of subtle waves. So, when you take a deep breath and feel your chest expand, know that your ribs are not just stretching, they are receiving. When you sing alone in the car and feel the sound vibrate your spine, know that this is your body remembering what it means to be heard, not by others, but by yourself. Your bones do not speak, but they respond. They do not think, but they remember. And in the language of vibration, they are fluent. They translate the outside world into sensation, meaning, and awareness. They are not just your frame, they are your instrument. And so, as the world grows louder and faster, it may be your bones that remind you to slow down, to sit still, to hum softly, to tune yourself once more to the simple truth that you are not separate from sound. You are made of it, carried by it, heard through it. The bones that hear the world are the same bones that hold you together. And in their quiet, steady listening, they carry not only sound, but the song of being alive. Now let us come to rest in the final movement of this quiet story, the one carried not by air or voice, but by the very scaffolding of the self. The bones that hear the world do not clamor for attention. They do not interpret or judge. They simply receive. And in that receiving, they allow us to feel something deeper than words, presence. To listen with the body is to return to a kind of knowing that predates language, a resonance that does not need to be explained to be true. It only needs to be felt. In moments of grief, joy, fear, or awe, there is often a stillness that spreads through the bones, a subtle holding as if the body is trying to listen more carefully. And in that pause, something profound is revealed. Our emotions themselves have a shape, a weight, a vibration. They ripple through the skeleton as surely as sound. This is why heartbreak feels like pressure in the chest, why excitement can tremble in the knees, why certain truths land not in the mind but in the bones. We often say, "I knew it in my bones," and we rarely question what we mean. It is a phrase older than logic, a memory inherited from ancestors who trusted the signals of the body as deeply as the stars. To feel something in your bones is to feel it in the foundation of who you are, past thought, past doubt. It is certainty born not of evidence but of resonance. Something fits, and the body knows before the voice can speak. And this knowing is not limited to humans. Animals too carry this wisdom. Herd animals feel the vibration of distant hooves before danger is seen. Cats and dogs often react to earthquakes or storms moments before they occur, sensing the subtlest changes in the ground. Their bones are tuned to frequencies we overlook. Their bodies are instruments of perception. In this way, they are not reacting, they are listening. This sensitivity connects us all. When we walk barefoot on the earth, when we lean our backs against trees, when we rest our heads on the chest of someone we love and feel the thrum of their heartbeat, these are acts of tuning, acts of trust. The world speaks to us constantly in this language of vibration, and our bones, patient and enduring, are always listening. The more we allow ourselves to notice, the more whole we become. In sacred traditions across the world, bones are revered not only for their strength but for their mystery. In some places they are kept as relics, the remains of saints, heroes, ancestors. In others they are returned to the earth with care, placed in positions of rest and reverence. There is an unspoken belief that bones still carry something, not just memory but essence, not just history but presence. The body may be gone, but its music somehow remains. And in medicine, we see how this music can be disrupted. A fracture is more than a break. It is an interruption in flow, a disconnection in the body's rhythm. Healing is not just the mending of matter, it is the restoration of harmony. The bone must learn to sing again. And when it does, when it fuses and re-strengthens, it remembers that it was once broken. That memory is built into the new pattern, not as weakness but as wisdom. There are people who carry metal in their bones now, plates, screws, rods. These additions change the song, but they do not silence it. They become part of the rhythm. They hum with movement. They click or buzz or ache with weather. They remind the body that even through trauma, life continues. The orchestra shifts, but the music plays on. And perhaps this is the deepest truth of all, that our bones are the most enduring part of us and also the most quietly alive. When breath has faded, when muscles have rested, when thought has quieted, it is the bones that remain. And if they could speak, they would not speak loudly. They would whisper. They would hum. They would tell you of all you've carried, all you've survived, all you've felt. So the next time you place your hand on your chest, or run your fingers along the ridge of your shin, or feel the subtle crackle in your knees as you stand, pause. There is something sacred in that sensation. It is the sound of life, not as music or word, but as structure, as memory, as witness. You have been listening all along, even when you didn't realize it. The drumbeat of the world, distant thunder, subway tremor, the shifting of a house at night, has been playing through your body, and your bones, quiet and faithful, have been hearing it. Let them remind you now of the rhythm you came from, of the heartbeat in the womb, of the footsteps you followed as a child, of the voices that spoke kindness, of the songs that brought stillness. Let them remind you that you are made not only of breath and mind, but of resonance, that you are part of the earth's music, that your very frame is a song. The bones that hear the world do not forget, and in their remembering, they invite you to listen once more, slowly, gently, deeply, to the sound of your own becoming.